This is the NFC Championship, AFC Championship week, boys.
Good OCs become head coaches. Me and you have the same ideas, except for I think the Ravens are gonna smack Patrick up, and you think that the Chiefs are gonna smack Lamar up.
Like, we call the Niners the Avengers, and when you really start looking down the line, the Lions are not like far behind.
I can't believe we're still recording. Oh my god.
Uh, yeah, okay, good morning, afternoon, and evening. It's the guy you should believe in. Dropping heat like every season. Underdog like Willie Beeman. Classic.
Before we
rock,
jump
singing,
into making our picks, first off, I just have to say that you made a little bit of a comeback last week. Let's see here. Christian McCaffrey versus Aaron Jones. I won that, so that was $10 to me. You won the CJ versus Lamar Jackson, more throwing yards. You won the KC minus 10.5, and then you won the Baker versus Goff touchdowns. But so I'm up $5 instead of 25.
Did I take Baker or Goff?
It's I have that you took Baker.
Oh yeah. I'm glad I rode with my boy.
More importantly here, before we jump into the picks and predictions, there's something I was thinking about today, and I was kind of just looking around. I have all the notifications for Adam Schefter on, and he tweets periodically, well, not periodically, a ton throughout the day. And it just bugs the hell out of me how many OCs and DCs are getting head coaching interviews. And I get it, because it's like it's part of the coaching cycle. That's how you get new guys.
Yeah.
I get it. But it's destroying good teams. It destroys good teams, because you have guys that, like, just take Matt Canada, for example. You don't want that guy to be your OC. You don't want that guy to be your head coach, right?
Yeah.
And at the same time, you don't want to be your OC. But at the end of the day, it's like there's tons of other guys. For example, like, look at the Eagles situation right now. Nick Sirianni is like supposedly on the hot seat, and you have and then the OC from last year when they went to the Super Bowl is now the Colts head coach. You had the answer in the building right there. And we see Nick Sirianni now as the play caller was not good at all.
Yeah.
And you had the answer in the building. You could have made him your head coach, or you could have just paid him well and kept him. And I get the aspiration of wanting to be a head coach, and it seems like he's got it figured out in terms of picking a staff. But these OCs and DCs, they've spent their entire, and again, I don't know the inner workings of how, like, staffs are created in the NFL. I know the NBA is much simpler with staffs, because you get your head coach, you bring your guys, right?
Yeah.
And I know there's a lot of that in the NFL, but these OCs and DCs that get head coaching jobs, and they were fantastic in their roles as an OC or DC on their original team, they become head coaches and they don't do great. And why is that? Because they don't know how to build a staff. It's not part of the curriculum per se as a offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, right? So, like, I think that, excluding I can't remember his name, the Eagles OC, who's now the Colts head coach, he clearly has got it figured out. But a lot of these other guys that are getting jobs, like, I don't love it, because number one, they don't know how to build a staff. Two, there's a lot less continuity. Everyone's just willing to, just because the fans are mad, we're going to axe our coach. Like, it doesn't need to be that way. Like, there's got to be, the one you point towards is Buffalo, and, like, there's got to be change. But at the same time, why not just go get an OC and pay him correctly and get him to stay? And, I don't love seeing these good teams get torn apart because their OCs are good and then they go somewhere and they aren't as great, because they're supposed to be offensive coordinators or defensive coordinators. They're not head coaches.
All right.
Another great example of this was our head coach last year. That, like, the Broncos head coach. So I rest my case. It's just I just don't like seeing it's just tearing apart teams.
Here's the thing. I agree when it comes specifically to the amount of head coaches that are currently in the cycle of teams being able to pick them up. I disagree in the thought that OCs and DCs don't make good head coaches, and it's a problem interviewing OCs and DCs, because that is how you become a head coach. You don't have
Yeah.
head coaches who show up in the NFL or head coaches. You start out as an OC and DC. That's just the process to becoming a head coach. Bill Belichick wasn't a head coach, right? Like he worked his way up and then got his starting role. All these coaches at one point were an OC, a DC, maybe. I think it's very rare that you're a head coach in college and then you go straight to the head coaching position in the NFL. Nick Saban did it like for a year or two, and then he went back down to college. So like this is the only strat that works, to be fair, is taking an OC and a DC. And with the thing that you were saying about like, why don't they just bring back a good OC, pay him well, and get him to stay? It's because they can be good OCs become head coaches. That's why it's hard. It's hard when like that's one of the reasons why these head coaches that are also offense coordinators, also defensive coordinators, it's part of their resume, because now they don't have to pay another guy who's gonna leave for a head coaching job later down the line. But I do agree with the idea that with the amount of talent you have in the head coaching position, all these free agents who have recently been fired, it doesn't make sense to not try and get them over and just go with an offense coordinator. I agree with that, but
I have two kind of rebuttals to that quickly. Like the first one is I agree with you. It's part of the cycle. I get that. Like to become a head coach, I get that. But not everyone is a head coach.
factually, that's a factual statement. Not everyone is a
Yes,
head coach.
but like not all these OCs or DCs are head coaches. They're just not. And it needs, and part of that is the culture shift within management systems and ownership is they want to win, and they think they see a guy that does well for 1 year in a system or 2 years in a system and say, we want to go get him. I love the head coaching hire that the Titans made today for the Bengals OC. That makes sense to me because you look at his track record and he's earned it. But these guys that are like, there's exceptions to the rule all across the league. Don't get me wrong. I know in the comments they're gonna eat me alive for this. D'Amico Ryans, the Eagles. Like I get it. I get it. There's exceptions to every rule, but more often than not, it doesn't work out. And I just think that there needs to like instead of just, let's take a shot on him. Like, let's go get a real head coach that understands time management and understands how to manage people. And then let's go get good coordinators and
Well,
let's build a good staff.
There's
It's
no
good
other
staff.
path that you're talking about. There's no other path besides an OC or a DC, right? You can go get another head coach, but I mean,
But it puts
you look
it
at
puts
these.
this.
How do those head coaches? How did they get good at that? By being a head coach, and that's how they get good at that, right? So you're taking a shot on a guy, and you're seeing if he has what it takes.
Well, that's what I'm saying though, is if you're gonna do that, take the shot and stick with the guy. But the problem is now is the management and ownership groups are 1 year, one and done, 2 years and done. They don't give these guys opportunity to actually learn, right? To actually build that part of their skill set of building a staff, getting comfortable with time management. If you're gonna do it, commit to it. Don't just, you see what I mean?
No, I agree with you, because one thing that happens is like 1 year, your first 2 years as a head coach are never going to be good, right? If they
No.
are good, then it's just like everything's going right for you. It's usually your
Then you
third or
walked into
fourth
Kansas
year.
City.
It's usually your third or fourth year when you actually start seeing progress.
Right.
And so I agree with you that like if we're gonna play the strategy of first 2 years and then you're out, yeah, just go get a head coach that's been doing it for 10 years, right? Just go
Right.
do that.
And
Don't
just build a good staff.
Yeah, don't stick with a newbie who's gonna take super long. But when it comes to getting a great head coach, I mean, let's just look at Mike Tomlin, defensive coordinator, and then he's like a top 10 coach all time based on the players. Like players would probably put him top 10 all time as a head coach.
Well, yeah, and I get it. And like I said, I get it. I understand that that's the path. But I just think if we're gonna do it, commit to it. And if you're not going to commit to the guy for long term, then don't do it.
I definitely
Just
think this
stay.
season you're correct. This season, especially with the amount of talent that is out there, you'd be foolish to take a shot on an OC unless there's really nobody else that fits your system besides uh the Steelers, for example, like Mike Tomlin's going to keep his position, but like, let's say Mike Tomlin, for whatever reason, won it out. Who would you want? You would want Miami's offense coordinator, right? Because he's proven to have a great offense. You have a great
Well,
defense.
that's Mike McDaniels.
No, the Dolphins have an OC.
Well, yeah, I know they have an OC, but like
And
Mike
he's
McDaniels is the guy who's calling the plays.
yeah, but like their OC is getting like interviews, right?
Yeah.
Because that's the idea. If Mike Tomlin was removed from that situation, you have a great defense, shambles offense. You would go with an OC who's been proven to have a good offense and run good plays as your head coach.
Yeah. I just wanted to bring that up because I just, there's so much of it I see, and it's just most of it. I can just see these franchises. It made sense to me why it kind of clicked for me this year of like why there's a new playoff team. There's 7 new playoff teams every year. Is
Too much
that,
change.
there's a ton of change, both from personnel, like players, but then also from in the staffs as well.
Yeah, it's really culture. Culture is what gets you to the playoffs. Culture is what wins Super Bowls.
All right. So good combo there. I like that. I'm glad that we kind of see, there's some disagreement, but I think I'm glad we see eye to eye. Next up, let's talk NFC Championship. I want to get the woo-woo stuff out of the way, all those, theories and crap that's out there of why which team is going to win. And then I have three questions and a gimme that's that I think is the important piece to this. So of course the woo-woo stuff, the Kirk Cousins curse. The Niners lost to Kirk Cousins 22-17. That means they can't win the Super Bowl. Whereas the Lions have beaten the Vikings twice. They beat them twice this year, once with Kirk Cousins, once without. So there you go. Got those out of the way.
Kurt Cobain.
The 3 big questions and the one gimme. We'll start with the gimme. Will Debo play? That's a huge, obviously, and they're not gonna tell you early in the week. When I saw Adam Schefter tweet that Debo is 50-50 on playing this weekend, my initial reaction was he's not playing, but they don't want to give a lot away.
Do you know his injury?
He had a shoulder something.
I think he plays. Shoulder.
I don't know. That was just my first reaction to it, was like he's 50-50. If you're confident he's going to play, then you say he's 50-50, but we're leaning towards him playing, or you don't even say 50-50. You say Debo is feeling really good today, and I get the gamesmanship of not wanting to say too much, but I don't know, that's my initial reaction there. So that's the gimme in there. The other 3, I think, more important questions here, is the first one. Can you contain Christian McCaffrey? Not stop, but contain. Keep him to like 80, 1 touchdown, 20 yards receiving. Can you keep him to a moderate game by Christian McCaffrey's standards? The next one is, can you replicate the Packers' run game again? In this case, the Lions have an advantage in that, obviously Aaron Jones got the job done, but now you're dealing with what I think is the best backfield in the NFL, which is a switch in pace. You have your bruiser and you've got your pace and space guy. But then also, can you run the ball when they know you're running the ball and be successful? Like, hey, it's 3rd and 2. We're going to run power. Stop us. I dare you. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
that's the second one. And then the third one, which is rare to hear in today's game, is can the Lions control the middle of the field? Which we were talking about how they were beating up the Rams in the middle of the field. And it's not regular. Like, you don't hear that regularly anymore, controlling the middle of the field. But I think there's a strong case that, if the Lions can dictate the middle of the field and contain Christian McCaffrey and make Brock Purdy throw outside the numbers and use the sideline as that, extra defender, this is an interesting game. Either way, I think it's an interesting game. But I think those are the 3 big points that, the 3 big questions that will have to be answered.
Sorry, I was thinking on how to pronounce Pat McAfee. So Pat McAfee had a little point about how he feels like now that we're into the postseason, the refs are letting the teams play a lot more. They're not calling as many penalties. I think that Bills Chiefs game was a huge indicator of that. We didn't see a lot of penalties throughout that game. So if that's the case, 49ers versus Lions. When we watched the Lions play the Rams, you said it yourself. You saw a lot of like late kind of hits. You saw a lot of like dirty shots across the middle from the Lions secondary. If McAfee is right and the refs are going to let the boys play a lot more, I think they can control the middle of the field because you are going to see those bigger hits. You are going to see like them getting a little bit dirtier with these hits, maybe even a couple of late hits that we saw against the Rams. So if that's the case, I think they can control the middle of the field, which is going
Especially
to be
without Debo.
yeah, and it's going to be huge with the amount of yak that the 49ers are so accustomed to getting
I
when you
100% agree.
when you have like what took out what was his name? It was like Higbee, maybe. What took out
Tyler
that guy?
Higbee, yeah.
Tyler Higbee. What took out his legs? Right.
Mhm.
If we're seeing a lot more of that, then I mean, there's not going to be as much yak if they're diving at your legs,
Yeah.
like full speed every single time. So yeah, that and when it comes to the run game, do I think that they can be like, hey, it's 3rd and 2, we're gonna run the ball? That's the one thing I don't know. Because I
Right.
do know that when it comes to their RBs, they aren't really just like a ground and pound. They're more of like those screen passes, more of like using Gibbs to kind of like pull people away. And
Well, but Montgomery is that ground and pound. The question
yeah,
I think there is he going to be healthy? Because we saw him play somewhat in this last game, um, but not a ton. But can you use him like even if he's not 100%? Is he good to go on a 3rd and 2? Is he good to go on a 3rd and 3? Is he good to go on a 2nd and 5?
mhm,
Just rotate him in that way and let Jameer play lead back, be the feature back for that game, and let David Montgomery play goal line, play short yardage. Um, Got to have it 3rd downs, and just save him for those moments in which you have to have it.
yeah. Uh, they're so it's so difficult to like talk about this game because it's like okay, the Lions defense has to show out, right? But then flipping San Francisco's defense is just as good, right? So like, what can they do? Like like it's hard to see them have a great running game when there's Fred Warner there, especially with Nick Bosa and Chase Young, right? Like the amount of pressure that Jared Goff is going to get every single down is going to be so tough for him. It like you have Sam Laporta, which is great because that's like your one guy that you can rely on when you're getting pressure. Amon-Ra, most of the highlights I see from Amon-Ra are like 20, 30-yard bombs. Like,
He's the spark guy.
yeah. So I don't know. I think it's going to be a Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta heavy game for the offensive side of things. And then it's really just like, are the 49ers asleep? Like they were last week, or did they wake up? Did just playing a game get them back to the middle of the season? Because if it got them back to how they were rolling during the middle of the season, I don't see this being a close game.
And you brought up a good point with how will Jared Goff and the offensive line handle the rush. And for me, I feel like that was answered against the Bucs. Because there were moments where Jared went goof
Mm,
and he still didn't full goof where it was, Packers versus Lions on Thanksgiving. It still
yeah,
wasn't that. So to me, that question got answered. And obviously, it's going to be tougher because you've got two household names on each edge coming at you, ears pinned back, full speed, you know, 3 technique coming downhill.
yeah.
Um, so it's going to be tougher, but I do think that
I
I
think
feel
we're gonna
like that
see
question
Jared
got
Goof.
answered.
I think we're gonna see Jared Goof because it's like the problem with Jared is that it's not just like a consistent whether or not he's Jared Goof or not. It's game by game. Like he has Jared Goof games just like he feels like it. Is the pressure going to get to him? This is to make it into the Super Bowl, or is Dan Campbell just he just brings that much confidence to the offense and the defense, the entire team, to where it's like, hey, we're the dogs, right? We don't care that these guys are the best team in the NFL on paper, right? We're going to go out there and smash them in the mouth no matter what. So
I
it's
think
very
it's
difficult to decide.
Well, with every game, I feel like they grow, like confidence grows in the Lions. and we're going to see it explode here. Like, this is the moment that we see them fully take shape. And this is the first playoff game we're getting this year where they're not at home. So that's going to be interesting too, how that plays out. I think this comes down to, I honestly think this comes down to it's like a 3 or 4 point game.
You think so?
I don't think it's a 1 point game, not because I don't think it's close. I think the scoring is going to be touchdown based. So it's not going to be, it's going to be touchdown based in the first half, and then it's going to be who kicks the last field goal in the second. So I think this is maybe like a 3 or 4 point game, not because it's not close, but more so just because of nature of what the scoring is going to look like. That
Who are you
being
taking?
said, that was where I was going to go next. That being said, I'm going to go Lions. And when I get to the Chiefs game, I'll explain. There's another portion of why, but I'm going to take Lions in this.
Okay. See, I want to take Lions too, because I do this often where like some team has like a bad game and they're like, oh, they're falling. They're going downhill. Like the 49ers look slow. They look asleep. Every single time I do that, that team wakes up. That team bounces back. So I don't feel like, even though I've been doubting the Lions throughout this playoff run that they've had, and like the Zane pick is to go Lions because they're the underdog and you just go with them. But I've given the 49ers a lot of hate and critique. So I'm going to go with them. I'm going to go with them, which is the safe bet. But either pick, either team that I say is going to win, I can see the upset. I can see the other team coming out and proving me wrong.
For me, it's less of they're asleep and it's like this is just going to be a really good game. They're both, I think the Niners have been woken up. It's going to be a really good game, and it's going to come down to who has the ball last. And I think Brock is still a little bit young. And although he played well in that game against the Packers, there were moments where, up until the fourth quarter, he wasn't around. Of course, that's what matters in the fourth quarter, and that's why I think it comes down to who has the ball last. And I would rather I trust the Lions more with the ball in their hands last.
I wish I still had the stat, because there was an old clip of me talking about what happened. Like they went on, because the 49ers went on a losing streak when Debo was out, but Debo and Trent Williams were out at the same time. But I went on a little rant saying like, hey, as soon as one of their guys goes out, they can't play ball. They're not this team that can win. If he's not playing.
Well, the other thing is too, is even if he is playing, what percentage is he? Is he dinged up? Is he going to go out again? That's the other part of it too, is yes, he could play still, but what version? Is he just going to be a decoy? Are we going to see like a 1 target game towards Debo and he's just out there being a decoy and he might get 2 or 3 carries just to spice it up and keep you on your toes? That's another point that, that's a good point that you bring up.
Yeah, I'm sticking with the 49ers. But if Debo is not playing, I could see it. I could see it. Your dad's going to be happy. Your dad's going to be happy.
I just think there's a lot of, like, we call the Niners the Avengers, and when you really start looking down the line, the Lions defense has shown up in the postseason. But when you really start looking down the line offensively, the Lions are not like far behind.
Yeah.
And if their defense continues to come along, then, same deal.
If the Lions secondary comes out and like every single time a wide receiver gets the ball, they're getting smacked like the flipping Rams got, right? One guy's wrapping them up and then another guy's coming from 5 yards out, full speed, little bit of head, little bit of shoulder pad right there,
And I wonder how much of the mental thing is going to be for Brock Purdy. Like, I got hurt last time I was here. Not here specifically, but like, I wonder how much of it in his head is going to be like, uh-oh, here we go again. It's the mental game. And we don't know what kind of mental Brock has. We kind of have a better hold on, the guys like Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, but we don't know. We haven't really seen what Brock's made of mentally. So this will be interesting how he is, how he plays in this game.
all credit to him, but like these last 2 years have been easy for him, right? But all
Yeah.
that's to his credit, to his ability, they've been easy. But I mean, it does show like if everything's going bad for him, how is he going to perform? That's a huge that's huge when you're talking about a quarterback, especially a quarterback that you're going to keep around for 10 years. How do you play when things aren't going your way?
All right, let's move over to the AFC.
All right.
And this one is much simpler for me, at least. My notes for this part of so this was the coaching and the NFC, and then that is the AFC. Much simpler. 3 bullet points.
Give them to me.
Patrick Mahomes is better. Patrick Mahomes wins in the playoffs. Patrick Mahomes is the script. There you go.
You do this all the time. You're like you'll make a point and then I'll come up with a counterpoint and then you'll be like all right, here's why you're wrong. And then you go, he's better. They're
No, but
better.
this time I'm starting the argument off. This time I'm starting the argument off. No, but in actuality though, I don't want to bet against Patrick Mahomes. I said it yesterday. I don't want to bet against Patrick Mahomes. He scares me. He's terrifying. And they're rolling now. I think there's a little bit of this dog that's been woken up in Travis Kelce because his brother couldn't make one more playoff run, and this is probably his last year. So symbolically, can I go get one for older brother? Maybe. If there's anyone that doesn't fear Patrick Mahomes, though, it's Lamar Jackson. If there's anyone that doesn't fear him,
Ravens defense.
Yeah, but I think the Ravens defense plays with the attitude of Lamar Jackson. And for Lamar, he doesn't care. And the game will be driven by the emotion of these two quarterbacks. And if Patrick Mahomes starts whining and starts every time he throws the ball in, why didn't you throw the flag? Then the Chiefs are gonna that's just not going to work against the Ravens. And the Ravens are going to say, oh, you're mad? Okay, come here, get some more. Right. But it could go the opposite way too, where Patrick Mahomes comes in, ready and raring to go. And it's a different story. So it's a close game, but I'm going Chiefs here. Just pretty straight up. I'm going Chiefs. I think it's like a touchdown win.
I don't agree. I think there's going to be a lot of big hits on Patrick Mahomes this game. I think he's going to get smacked, which we don't see a lot of. We don't see a lot of Patrick Mahomes getting smacked, right? But that's the same with Brock Purdy. We don't see a lot of times Brock Purdy gets smacked. We saw Brock Purdy get smacked up when they played the Ravens. I think they're going to do some corner blitzes, some safety blitzes. They're going to break through and they're going to smack them. And let's just talk about the Chiefs defense. I mean, as much as a fanboy I've become of the Bills, right? That first half, they couldn't do anything to the Bills offense. That first half, the Bills offense was walking them down the field, doing whatever they wanted to, scoring whenever they wanted. Josh Allen running in 2 touchdowns. Right now, you have a better runner, arguably a better passer because he didn't turn the ball over as much.
Oh boy, here he goes.
With Zay Flowers, Isaiah Likely, Mark Andrews is rumored to come back. Right?
I don't think that's likely, but
they have a powerhouse offense that is fueled entirely by Lamar Jackson. So it all comes down to, can Lamar be Lamar Jackson? Which he's only played 1 game, right? He's still fresh. He ran for 100 yards. That was big.
Again, my thing I just keep coming back to is he seemed healthy coming out of that game against the Texans.
All right.
But
versus the Bills, 0 sacks. 0 sacks going up against the Bills O-line. Ravens O-line is better. And they're getting 0 sacks on him. I don't think you can allow.
I'm not talking about sacks here. I'm talking about when Lamar decides to escape the pocket and goes. Part of the reason why I was going to say this is I like the Josh Allen matchup better, like in terms of like for the quarterback when we're talking about runners, because he's so much more physical. But with Lamar escaping the pocket, and obviously we saw him against the Texans and he did just fine because of how elusive he is. But this is not the Texans defense. This is not the Texans defense looked good, but they're still young. This is a salted defense. This is, L'Jarius Sneed. This is Chris Jones. these guys are not new. They're not new to this. And it's one mistake. It's one wrong juke. It's one second too long of a pause from Lamar, and it's heads are flying, heads are rolling. And I'm not guaranteeing that happening. I'm just saying it's just scary. You've got Tyler Huntley under center all of a sudden, and the game has completely shifted in favor of the Chiefs. And I'm not saying it's a guarantee. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I don't think these guys are the Chiefs defense is not new to this. They're not amused by Lamar's moves and everything he's doing, and they're not starstruck. They're going to be hunting heads as every time he's out of the pocket.
Yeah, I could say the same thing with the Ravens because the Ravens defense is better.
But I don't disagree with you, but I think there's more you're more opportunistic as a defense when you have a runner who's going to go downfield and who's not going to slide. Like Lamar's not sliding. He's either trying to get out of bounds or he's going to dive forward.
But if you
So
watched him this year, you would know how great his awareness has been as a runner. He has not taken any big hits.
I'm not putting this on Lamar. I'm not saying it's going to be Lamar's fault. I'm saying the defense is headhunting. And when you've got Lamar who's slighter than Josh Allen, that's not debatable. He's slighter than Josh Allen, which makes him more elusive. It just scares me more. It scares me more from a Lamar perspective, just getting absolutely rocked. Whereas Patrick's got a little bit more heft. He's not necessarily moving the ball down the field when he's running. He's just kind of extending plays. And this is nothing against Lamar, but I think Lamar is more willing to break the pocket and go run on a third down where he probably should throw the ball away and cost himself his health, get rocked. Whereas Patrick's like, I'll live to see another day. I'll throw this away. I'll, just take the sack and go down and live to see another day, punt the ball, trust my defense. Lamar is more willing to risk it for the biscuit, which is it just concerns me. That's all. I'm not saying that this is a blowout or anything. It just concerns me.
Me and you have the same ideas, except for I think the Ravens are gonna smack Patrick up, and you think that the Chiefs are gonna smack Lamar up. Very interesting.
I think it could be. I don't think that it's going to happen. I'm just saying I think it could happen, and if it does, it's more impactful because if you smack him, it takes away a whole facet of that offense.
For the first time in this podcast history, I'm gonna ride with my team, my number one team, the Baltimore Ravens. Right? For the first time, I'm gonna ride with them. This is gonna be a dominant game by the Baltimore Ravens. Lamar is going to show why he deserves to be the MVP, why he deserves all that money that they gave him, and he's going to show all those 32 teams that didn't take him. Well, not 32, 31 teams that didn't take him. He's going to show them why they're a bunch of morons.
That's fair. My last point here is the last piece of why I said when I get to the end of my take with that. With the NFC, I'd come back, or with the AFC, I'd come back to the NFC here. And it's a little bit woo-woo, but what is my Super Bowl? Chiefs, Lions. Why? Do you remember week 1, the first game of the year in which the Lions beat the Chiefs 21-20 in a thriller, and we were all shocked? It wasn't shock and awe. We were just shocked. Everyone was just like, did this just happen? It took like 2 days for it to settle in and be like, the Lions just beat the defending champs. What did we just watch? Are they for real this year? Are they contenders? We don't know. So who better than to have your number one moneymaker? Who better to have your number one moneymaker and the chosen one in the Super Bowl? This is the script. We saw the outcome of the Super Bowl in week 1, and we get to see a rerun in 2 weeks.
All right, doing a little script play. I will say, like I've said before, if flipping Taylor Swift makes a surprise appearance, if the Chiefs are in the Super Bowl, Taylor Swift makes a surprise Super Bowl performance. It's all scripted. It's all made up.
If it happens, I'm with you.
Yeah, and then like what are we gonna do? Because
what better of a script though? What better of a script than we saw the Super Bowl week 1?
Yeah, that'd be great, especially with all this entire season the entire script for this season has been revenge.
Yeah.
We saw it in the first round of the playoffs. It was like 5 flipping revenge games. So much like getting back the other team. Now to cap it off, you have a revenge game, right? Where Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs come out and win. Taylor Swift has boosted their ratings by astronomical numbers because they have an entire gender watching football now. If it's scripted, it makes so much sense because now like you're gonna have the most watched Super Bowl ever, right? Because Taylor Swift's gonna be there.
All of Michigan's watching.
Yeah, all of the entire state of Michigan's watching. Yeah, I could see it. I could see I could see the script. See the script playing out, but I'm sticking with my boys.
It hit me this morning. I was on my way to work and I was like, holy Moses, they played week 1. This is it makes too much sense. So there you go, guys. I'd love to hear, kind of calling back to the beginning of the show, I'd love to hear down in the comments about what you guys think of my take of OCs, DCs should not be interviewed for head coaching jobs as often. And if they are, these owners and management groups need to commit to it. Of course, we want to hear all about what you guys think when we're talking about these 2 championship games. They should be fun either way. They should be good games. We've had a good playoffs this year, I think. So yeah, if you want to see more of us for whatever reason, you can catch us on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram at buffet.sports. We post every day, if not twice a day. Zane's smirking for some dumb reason.
Because of my dog. Look at him.
Oh.
Otter. I thought he was going to poke his head out again. You see just his ears.
Yes. We post every day, if not twice a day. This is the NFC Championship, AFC Championship week, boys. Ciao.
Ciao.